Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Current History video blog. Today, I'm going to be going over what the war in Iran has been doing to the global energy market and how it's been encouraging investment in renewable energy sources such as solar and wind. So, in March 2026, Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz. 20% of global oil supply and 19% of global liquid natural gas trade stopped moving. The International Energy Agency called it the largest supply disruption in history of the global oil market. And Qatar's LNG output, one of the world's largest producers of natural gas, went to zero after Iranian drone strikes hit its export facilities. Gas prices in Europe doubled. Asian markets, which relied directly on the oil exports from the Strait of Hormuz, took a really hard hit. So the only Gulf exporters that were able to mitigate the damage from this were Saudi Arabia and the UAE, which have pipelines that ran around the Strait of Hormuz. Every other producer had no other alternative. And so by early April, shipments had fallen from over 20 million barrels a day to 3.8 million. The response from energy policymakers was immediate. So the IEA's executive director said that one expected outcome of this crisis would be an acceleration of renewables. Solar and wind are mainly domestic energy sources within each country. They don't travel through straits. They can't be blockaded. And the data shows the energy industry was already moving in this direction. So renewables accounted for nearly 80% of all global energy capacity installed in 2025 and now make up just under half of total world capacity. Clean energy investment hit $2.2 trillion last year, double fossil fuels. Spain is a very good example. Wholesale electricity prices ran 32% below the EU average because wind and solar had displaced so much gas generation. When the war started and gas prices spiked across Europe, Spain barely felt it. But here's where it gets complicated. Solar panels, wind turbines, and batteries aren't made from sunlight and wind. They're made from minerals. China is the dominant refiner for 19 out of 20 minerals deemed critical, with an average market share of around 70%. These numbers are even higher for metals such as gallium that are key for semiconductors. So there's currently no heavy rare earth separation capacity in the United States at meaningful scale. So mining and refining are two very different things and are often on the non-exciting side of the policy arena, but they are about as important as it gets. So Australia mines most of the world's lithium. Congo produces most of the world's cobalt, but raw ore can't become a battery without processing. And China built that processing infrastructure through a deliberate strategy over decades. The bottleneck isn't in the ground. Meanwhile, China has already shown willingness to use that leverage with export controls escalating from 2023 through 25. But this is not the same kind of choke point. When oil gets disrupted, every car driver feels it immediately. When minerals get disrupted, it only affects the manufacturer of new equipment. Everything already installed keeps running. And oil gets consumed entirely. Every barrel burned requires a new one through the same routes indefinitely. Minerals go into infrastructure that lasts decades and can be partially recovered through recycling. So the transition doesn't eliminate strategic exposure. It moves it upstream into supply chains that are highly concentrated. But it moves it towards a problem with a solution and more manageable constraints. There is not, as of yet, a solution to when 20% of the oil supply is knocked off the market.